So, good afternoon. My name is Marica Vicale, and here with me there are my two colleagues, Ilenia Sanzo and Ilaria Boccagna, and we want to introduce to you our work in Caserta, in the south of Italy, in our refuge for abused women, which is managed by the Spazio Donna association. First of all, I want to thank Drs. Bozzaotra and Ordine dei Psicologi della Campania e Ordine dei Psicologi della Lombardia, which are our professional association. That allows us to stay here with you and to share this experience with all psychologists in all over Europe. I want to show a video of our association. This was a video basically placed in Caserta, which is where we operate, and on the back you can see the Royal Palace of Caserta, which is also quite particular. I want to invite you to visit Caserta place. It's very nice and also a little bit warmer than compared to here. In more than 10 years of working, we offering psychological support to women that are victims of violence. In all these forms, so basically physical, psychological, sexual, and economical. What we were trying to define is the fact that domestic violence is a widespread phenomenon and constitutes traumas for the victims. And the aim, considering this as a premise, the aim of our work is to retrieval of the person, the family resources, and the repair of the damage that resulted from the experience suffered. The psychological care of female victims of violence is very unique because it's having some elements present already in the formulation of the help request that differentiate from other cares. Basically, why it's so different? Because females victims of violence are having like some kind of mechanism, very massive mechanism of defense. The first one, it could be like the underestimation of the violence as a form of dissociation from reality, as a form exactly to try to better accept it. A second one, it could be the attribution also of the fault to themselves. So the Julian Rotter was defined as internal locus of control. So basically this was a kind of way to say that we can control our life and not some external factors such as fate, destiny. So we are in control of our life and also all the events that happens to us. Another kind of defense that the women quite used is the sorry, I'm a little bit embarrassed. So it was a study that was the helplessness learned by Seligman. Basically what he was trying to do is study in a very scientific way, so from some psychotherapists of cognitive behavioral side, and basically so they put in some dogs in a crate where it was impossible to escape. So it was administered some light shocks to these dogs, and after a period of time, so at the beginning where the dogs were trying to escape from this crate, at some point they were assuming like a passive behavior because they tried to stop to reacting and stop to trying to escape. This was exactly what Seligman was referring to as as a helplessness learned. So basically they learned the impotence. It was exactly the same things that happens to our women when they are in this kind of environment, in a violence environment. So at some point, after a certain period of time, the women stops to react, and they basically assume like a passive behavior. What we do, the aim of our project is basically the awareness, so try to get aware the woman of being a victim of violence, and also trying to activate all the emergency measures of protection in order to help them and also their children in case they have it. The reality testing helps obviously to define better a starting point of the clinical work and also the other steps. Only just after these steps, so after the women became aware about their condition, we can move on the other steps. So like the empowerment of themselves in order to try to strengthen the self-esteem, the regain the self-confidence, the restrain also the personal and interpersonal skills they are already acquired, but they are not recognized by them. As well also they try to experience new way of their role of woman and mother too. The therapeutic relationship is the turning point of a very complex and evolutionary process in which it's possible to try out a new way to be in relationship with the other without cancelling themselves out. It was exactly what happens to the women during a violent context. What we do, so which are the methods and tools that we use? In our CAV, which is our anti-violence centers, we provide 6 individual weekly sessions for about 1 hour with a psychologist and a psychotherapist that is an expert of the gender violence. The first session obviously represents the first step to way out of the violence, where we can assess the risks for her and for the children and all the protective factors in order to try to them to live out from that situation. So with some tools like the removal, the protection, the activation of the legal procedures, and psychological and health assistance too. Then the woman was motivated to change, also different from where she is. So all the environment factors such as family, works, and children, that obviously affects their choices. The relationship with a female psychotherapist, because in the anti-violence centers the psychotherapists are women, because it's quite very important that the relationship between them doesn't leave out from the consideration that there is a reflection game where the women victims of violence can be recognize themselves into the others and imagine also they try their own change, and so their future life. And also the therapeutic relationship is marked by the exchange elements in a dialogue, which is the characteristics of the female gender that take on value and allows to the woman to acquire basically new tools to orientate in a more meaningful bounds her own life, as well also the author of the violence too. So what we see in this woman is that they assume a new position towards the author of the violence in order also to have a higher balance where they can appropriate themselves with more respect and also more value for themselves. The last tour is also try to help the woman to develop their autonomy, because also to develop and also the lack of the autonomy that they have in the activities, in all the daily activities and daily behaviors, there is also a lack of thinking that basically avoid them to move on and take some important decisions for their life. Individual works are not just the only tools that we use, but also some kind of self-help groups. They obviously allow women to find a mutual support with the other women that are suffering and experiencing the same kind of violence, to try to hinder a phenomenon that is quite important, so the loneliness. So the group has 2 big functions, which is the exit from the isolation and provide a unique socialized opportunities that she can experience during this help group. And then there is also a group becomes like a function or be a platform of all the have all the unexpressed emotions, and be also a way to having there and to share with the other women in a freedom and not judgment environment. The psychological care at the CADM, so our refuge for the women victims of violence, is basically based on the psychological support for the women, the children too. In the children, in particular, there is no target and very oriented therapy and assistance supporting for them. But in case of need, obviously, we try to activate also some kind of particular health care for the children. In the first session, which is exactly at the entrance of the women in this center, we have also a collaboration with the coordinator because it's a very important phase for her. Then we draft an individual project in collaboration with all the other working groups, members of the working groups, and then we try to interview. Obviously, the interview following also a kind of order, so an entrance interview, 2 interviews weekly, and then a weekly interview for all the period of her stay, and then a monthly interview in the period of discharge. Parenting support, preparation for social integration programs for children, and all the organizations, all the setup of the self-help groups. It's important, really important, to underline the fact that the children who witness the father's violence against their mother report exactly the same kind of traumas of the children who are experiencing the trauma, but directly. Spazio Donna Association is really doing a big job trying to study this kind of phenomenon, the witness violence, in particular on the factors that are affecting the traumatic effects as well. Some factors that influence traumatic effects on the children are the proximity of the child to the violence, the personality of the child, the age of the child of this experience the violence, because we don't have to forget that many situations of the violence starts exactly when the baby is born, or even before or during the pregnancy of the woman, having like a big also impact on the health and risk of their health and life as well. So it's quite important to underline that the fact that what we have to do is a specific also support for the children in case exactly or in case of need. What is the conclusion is what we see through all the experience that we get from this, our centers and refugee for the women is that psychological care represents a new construction of a new female identity that is based on the comparison and awareness of her own experience, thus allows to face the tensions and difficulties encountered in our relational life, but with more serenity. The result is the growth of her resources awareness, the development of new skill to try to identify negative thoughts that do not help to respond appropriately to everyday life. During the follow-up of the women to 1 year from the start of this path, the 60% of women recognize that psychological care that we offer in these houses is a positive moment for them and also a moment for growth, and report a higher level of well-being compared to their traumatic events suffered. What we want to do and what we are looking forward to doing with our association is to pursuing our aim to see also the effects of and follow up these women. What we are trying to do right now is basically having looking for some funding, exactly like we did in. We are doing already now with the Progetto Wide. It's a wide project basically with Erasmus Plus and the European funding that we received after we won this European funding. And what we are doing here is studying in partnership with Spain, so other countries in Europe, Spain, Portugal, Romania, and Italy. We are trying to find and study more about the witness violence. Thank you.